Okay, so welcome back to the Young Creatives podcast. My name is Michaela Anderson, and today we have someone very special on the podcast. Currently attending Belmont University, we have Lauren Hackett. Lauren, would you like
Hello.
would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Lauren Hackett. I am originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, up in the Northeast. And I made the move to Nashville about 3 years ago to attend school at Belmont University. Shout out to Belmont. Love them very much. But yeah, I started my business while I was in school and am almost done. I'm graduating this coming May. So I'm really just trying to make it across the finish line.
Absolutely. I totally understand that feeling because I just graduated last May too. And to be honest, it's like so weird not checking Canvas or Blackboard or whatever you use, and like getting used to not checking your school email because that was something I was like always looking at, like staying up to date.
Oh yeah, I think I will still wake up for the next 3 years from dreams of I forgot an assignment or something. I don't think it's ever going to go away.
Absolutely. Well, Lauren, I want to get into it because I think your business, out of all the ones that we've interviewed, is very, very different. And I think it's crazy because it benefits people in a different way. And so why don't you kind of introduce your business, what you do, how'd you get into it, all of that.
Absolutely. I feel like it's such a long story, but I started a company about a year ago, and I'm not even going to talk about the name yet because it did not start with that name. So about a year and a half ago, a friend of mine and I started a little thrift business because we were very bored in COVID and also just wanted some cash. So we just started recycling clothing and reselling it on Instagram, grew like a 2,000 person following. We were just literally having fun. And then I ended up getting an embroidery machine and started embroidering on some of the thrifted clothing. And that was selling really, really well. We quickly learned that to find clothing that could be embroidered that was thrifted was very, very difficult. It was not easy. So we started wholesaling some clothing and it was going really, really well. But it did come to the point where we were like, okay, we are selling majority embroidered crew necks and not really thrifted clothing anymore, which was a transition we were okay with, but it kind of came with the need for a rebranding because we were called something thrifts and it needed to be called something else.
Right.
And so this was probably about December of this past year. And we started to try and brainstorm ideas for this new business venture, basically. And one of the things that was really important to me and her was mental health. And we were like, if we're going to have a business, we are going to make sure that it benefits people, because if we're not thrifting clothing that's benefiting the environment, we want to make sure we're helping people. And so I spent days on thesaurus.com trying to make thrifted and mental health become a word together. It was a very chaotic process. I was on dictionary.com, does anything describe how I'm feeling about this? And
Absolutely.
One day I was sitting there and the word unfinished just kind of popped into my mind. And it was one of those moments where I was like, is that even a word? Unfinished? And then I was like, no, it definitely is. But so it was at that point where I was like, wait, that actually makes so much sense. Because if we're going to make the transition from thrift to clothing, then a lot of thrifting is basically giving life to old clothing and reselling it for someone else to love. And in a different but similar way, the mental health journey is so much like an unfinished book. It is so much like an unfinished story. It is a very difficult topic to discuss, but a lot of people on that journey will come to points where they're like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's too difficult. My journey is getting too hard. And so that really hit home for me. And I was like, I want to make sure people know that their story is not finished and that there's so much more left to it. And so I started working on affirmations and phrases that could be put on crew necks so that when people see and read these phrases, it reminds them that they have so much to live for and that there's so much hope and joy ahead of them. So that was kind of how the whole business started with Unfinished. The girl I was working with and I kind of went our separate ways business-wise just because school got absolutely crazy for the two of us. She is a wonderful person, an amazing law student, but we kind of decided to go our separate ways business-wise. But that is how the company came to be. And
my goodness.
I know it's such a long story.
It's such a good story. Yeah.
It is to look back and see the growth. It's so, I can appreciate it. I'm like very proud of it. And it is a reminder of how much we can grow within a single year, that all can happen. And then the past few months was more down the route of what are we doing specifically for the mental health community? Because yes, we knew we wanted to benefit them. And I was very, very passionate about it. But I was very cautious of just a monetary donation because I am a person who really loves to see where my money's going to go to if I'm going to donate it. I like get nervous. I'm like, well, who's it actually going to? Is it going to help people in psychiatric centers or people struggling with mental health? So I wanted to find a way where I could see it, a tangible product, something that could really help a person. So I ended up coming up with the idea to send crew necks to psychiatric patients. And I had no idea the issue that was within psychiatric centers, that people do not have comfortable clothing while they're there. It is a really, really big problem. And while a lot of centers do have options, there are many that are underfunded or just don't have the resources and capabilities to provide comfortable clothing, which means a lot of people are left wearing things like paper scrubs, which are very, very uncomfortable, or just clothing that makes them feel itemized or out of place. So I ended up starting this program to be able to send crew necks to psychiatric patients, specifically at the Horsham Clinic, which is a fantastic inpatient center up in Pennsylvania. And ever since then, I've been taking donations from all the products sold and putting them towards making them crew necks.
I love it. Because honestly, like, hearing that story, how do you not just like want to throw your money at like you? Because that is so what I am just like, take my money, please, because it hits so hard home for me. And like, even family or not, or within myself, like I've seen firsthand the struggles that people have while in psychiatric care units. And myself being in there at one time, just knowing that like, okay, I'm going here not willingly, and then having basically, I know on our pre-interview call, we talked about this a little bit, but stripped everything off of our bodies. Like they took necklaces, they took rings, they took earrings, they took everything, clothes, like you are nothing besides just yourself, and giving you something like these scrubs that have been in the care unit for years and they don't even fit you right, or they don't make you feel good. And it's just like a whole part of your being, because like you never really realize like how much of yourself you have within like your clothing style, the way you wear your hair, the way you talk, and like, yeah. Anyways, but I am absolutely loving what you're doing. And as far as like your mental health journey, if you're willing to share it, like how has that came up to producing Unfinished Apparel? Like, how do you believe like your journey has brought you in a place where you are like, yes, I want to advocate for this cause?
Yeah, I am definitely open to sharing about it. So I started having my first, I guess, struggle with mental health when I was in probably 7th grade. I had my first panic attack. I remember really not understanding what it was at the time. And I periodically had them for a few years, but never really did anything about it. I just, was told I had some anxiety about test taking or school in general. But as I progressed through high school, I definitely realized I had some mental health struggles of my own. I went through a really, really rough series of anxiety and depression, specifically anxiety. And from that led to an eating disorder that I had to work through for a while. And it was very, very difficult, especially because I went to a very small private school. And it was not a place where I felt comfortable talking to people about it, because I felt like if I told one person, everyone was going to know. And I had known people who had talked about their mental health and it worked out terribly for them. Like all the faculty knew about it. And I was terrified. I was like, I can't talk about my own mental struggles, because if I do, then I'm going to get judged for it. And it's not going to benefit me at all. And it was probably my junior year that I would say was like one of the hardest years I've gone through with mental health. I was just really in a bad place. And I was at a point where I did not see the end of the story. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to continue on with life if this is my life. Like, I felt so ill and sick that whole year that I was like, I can't live like this. Like, this doesn't make sense. It's not sustainable. And that really started my journey on discovering my own like mental needs and the ways that I needed to take care of myself, but also the impact that someone speaking up about their mental health could make on the community. I gave a talk when I was a senior, actually, at one of our chapels about my struggle. And I was in a place by then that I felt comfortable talking about it, but I was also a senior. So I was like, if any of you have anything horrible to say about me, I won't be here to hear it. So I may as well tell you all about it. So I did. And I had I don't want to say disturbing, but like scary number of people reach out to me and say that they had similar struggles. And I say that it was scary because that many people were silent about it at such a small school. And I was like, this is a way bigger problem than anyone knows about. I was like, how is this happening in such a tight-knit, tiny community and no one knows? And yes, I was part of the issue, but there were so many people. And it was in that moment that I was like, this is so much bigger than myself. It's so much bigger than this school. It is a literal epidemic of our generation, and people are struggling so much. So that was really where my passion for mental health and the need for a strong, supportive community began.
Absolutely. That's incredible, because I had a very similar experience in high school with, I wouldn't say I went to a small school, but our graduating class was probably around 300 kids. So I consider it small, I guess. And with that, it was super hard because I was in a choir with one of my friends, and we grew up together throughout high school. And the year after I graduated, we learned that he fought through suicide, and it took everybody by shock. It was him seeing, like, it was just so hard because everyone saw him as this super happy person. Like, nobody would have known until the day it happened, especially because he was male. And so it was super hard because not only is there a stigma in general, but also even more so on the male side, because females are seen as more sensitive, but then even more so on the male side, oh, I can't show my emotions. I can't like be seen as a sensitive person. And so how have you felt like you've been able to have those conversations with everyone in the like different types, like different races, different genders, all of that stuff? Like, have you seen a good amount of success with that, or has it been difficult?
Do you mean like talking to people about my own mental health and like creating that community?
Right, like that, and also just being able to show awareness to your brand and like what you're doing and making people like understand like this is a problem.
Yeah, I think what I've learned this past year is that I cannot do that alone at all. The only way for a community to be built and a community to learn is from other people within a community. Like, I can sit on my soapbox as much as I want, but there are so many people who are not going to identify with my story, who are not going to have struggled through the same things as I did. And so I really recognized the importance of having people ready to speak to other people. And so within like the comment sections, even on TikTok and Instagram, I will sometimes like write a prompt and be like, this is what I'm struggling with. You're free to speak up here and talk about what you're struggling with. And I have seen so many situations of people saying, this is what's going on in my life. This is what I'm struggling with. I don't see a way out. And I didn't have to respond because other people stepped up and stepped in and were like, hey, this happened to me too. And I've worked through this, and there is hope. There is a better life ahead of you. Like, you just have to get through it. Here were some resources that I used. And it was in those moments that I was like, this has nothing to do with me. I don't have to be here. I just facilitated this community being built, because people are not always going to learn from the same person. And we have to recognize that it sometimes takes a stranger on the internet to say, I've been through that too, for you to feel validated and understood and be able to see potential for growth and joy again.
Absolutely. That was very, very well said. And wow, because I don't know if you've ever had a struggle with this in the past, but I definitely have. And so I'm curious, because growing up, if somebody were to come with me, like whether it be drama, whether it be family problems, whatever it might be, them seeing themselves as like mentally decreasing, how do you not get attached to seeing so many people struggle and see so many people? How do you not attach yourself to saying, okay, this is like, I need to do something about this? And how do you not burden that on your soul?
That is a really, really good question. So about a few months ago, I would say maybe 4 or 5 months ago, I had someone message me on Instagram in our DMs at like 2 a.m. And they said that they were contemplating suicide and that they were planning to take their life. And I was just sitting there like in my bed reading this, and I like could not believe. I was first in shock that a stranger told me that. And then I was like, what on earth do I do? And they lived outside the US. So I had no idea who to call. I ended up being on the phone call with the hotline of that country, trying to find out what my options were to be able to set them up with care, because I was genuinely it was out of my league. I had no idea what to do. I mean, no moment was going to prepare me for that. So I ended up actually calling my own therapist, and I was like, I really don't know what to do, and I'm not going to pretend like I do. I can talk all I want about mental health. I have no idea what I'm doing right now. And he was like, he asked me the question of, how deep in are you willing to get? Because this situation might require you to get very, very personal, and you don't know what's going to come out of it. So you need to know how deep you want to get in. And I was like, it's someone's life. I'm going to do what I have to do. Just tell me what I need to do. And so over the course of probably 6 hours, I talked to this person and was trying to set them up with care and see if they could get connected with a hotline. So after about 6 hours of conversation, I did get them set up with a hotline in their country, which was really good. And that was a very big wake-up call to me of, I need to make sure that I have a strategy for these situations and know how to handle them, because mental health is such a difficult and sensitive topic. And when you are putting yourself on the forefront of it, like you have to be prepared for people to ask you really difficult questions, for people to come to you with the situations. And I've honestly found that like there is a lot of fulfillment for me in talking to people and to helping people, but there is a line that I know that I can't handle certain things, and I have to know when like my limits are reached and when to pass someone on to a professional. So I kind of see myself as more of a facilitator in that sense, because I know my limits and I know that I mentally can't handle those things. That is not the gift that I was given. And I just know that I am there to help these people along on their journey, whether that's plant a seed of hope or help them to someone who is able to provide them good care.
That's beautiful, because I honestly just asked that question for my own, because I've seen so many instances in myself where I know that this person's struggling and I take their problems and I burden myself with it. And I don't know where to draw the line, because this person could be my boyfriend, my husband, my sister, my brother, anybody. And like, I don't know how much is too much. And the biggest thing is that I've come to realize is that you can't give somebody help if they're not willing to help themselves yet.
Agreed.
Yeah. And it's so hard to hear that, because you might have a spouse, a sister, whomever going through a tough time, and you can see them struggling and it hurts you. And you're like, okay, let me help you. But the thing is that you were in those shoes and you can see the other side of it. They can't see that yet. And so just reassuring them that like hope is there, but not forcing them to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
completely agree.
Yeah.
It is, but it is very, very difficult to know the right things to say and to know how deep you're going to get in those situations. And I really do think it's knowing your limits and knowing, because I think if you don't know your limits, you can often end up in situations where you're not helping them. And there's just certain things that like we're not equipped for. Like, we're not trained professionals in all of those situations. And so I think knowing what you can handle and knowing what you are actually able to do and knowing what they are comfortable with you doing is really important before getting into those conversations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so getting also a little bit into it as well. So have you ever had an elder person come to you and say, like, you're having these conversations with younger people, but you don't quote unquote know what you're talking about because I have more life experience than you? And how have you addressed that in a way?
I have thankfully not had someone say that to me, because I personally don't think I would take that well. But it is an absolutely possible thing that could happen. A lot of people are like, you are 20 years old. You literally you don't even have a science degree. You're in marketing. What do you know about mental health? And why do you think you should be allowed to speak on it? Mm-hmm. And while I haven't had people, I guess, like question my authority to be able to speak on it, I have had people question my motives and say, because I don't know anything about mental health, that like, why do I think that I'm actually benefiting people? Like, I don't know anything about psychiatric centers. I don't know what to provide people, that I'm like abusing the system. I've had people accuse me of those things. And I'm often lost for words. I'm like, I can't believe people think I'm that horrible person. Right. And I definitely have to come to the realization that I just don't know everything. And I think that's what you have to do when you're asked those questions. You have to be like, okay, I know I don't know everything, and that's okay. Do you want to educate me? Like, tell me what the problem is so that I can fix it. I remember we had one situation where I had a donation set up to go to the clinic, and I was folding all the clothing in the video, and there was a hoodie in there, and I got accused of sending potentially harmful things to a psychiatric center, and that I was putting people in danger because of the strings within the hoodies. And I had known about this, and so I took the strings out before I sent it. But all of a sudden, my entire comment section was filled with people thinking that I am helping people hurt themselves. And I was literally having a meltdown. I was like, oh my gosh, one, I didn't even do this. And two, like, why do people think I did that? And at first, I responded with the most angry video on the planet because I was just so mad. I was like, how could you say that about me, my character, my company? Like, I felt personally attacked. And I deleted the video in literally 30 seconds. I could not believe I put it up. But I then responded with a video that was like, I hear your concerns. This is what actually happened. I totally understand where you're coming from. What other concerns do you have? Let me answer them or let me learn. And that video got great response. There were people who really just did not understand who I was or what the company was about that got their questions answered and actually supported the company after that. And so I think it was one of those situations where I really learned that sometimes you just have to admit that you don't know everything and be appreciative of when people correct you or ask you difficult questions, because it's often in those moments you learn a lot about yourself and what your mission is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I know getting into my degree, like you have to accept with open hands that I'm not going to know everything as soon as I get my college diploma. That's just a wake-up call that everybody needs to realize before you graduate. And I did not realize that until like a week into my job. I was like, I know nothing about website design. And so why don't you tell me, like, are you really enjoying what you're doing? Because I know you're a full-time student. I know you have your full-time business. You have to make content. You have to keep up with orders. You have to correspond with these messages. Are you enjoying it?
I am. I don't enjoy every minute of it. I love what I do. Absolutely. And I do love every part of it, but there are some moments that I don't want to be doing it. That is for sure. I think anyone that started a business will tell you there were moments when they were like, I want nothing to do with this. But one of the things, or the thing I probably love most about being a business owner, is that I get to wear all the little hats right now. If I want to do marketing, I get to put on my marketing hat. If I want to do design, I get to put on my design hat. Even though I had no interest in design or let's see, graphic design, had no interest in that beforehand, no idea what I was doing. Content creation was still learning, but this has given me the opportunity to grow in all of those areas and to also be able to experiment. Because I'm sure a lot of college students can relate to the fact that they don't know what they're doing, even though they are a junior or senior. And they're like, well, I'm in marketing, but what if I want to go into this or that? I don't know what even sector of marketing I want to go into. So this has been a great opportunity for me to find out like what I genuinely love about marketing and business as a whole. But that has been a very enjoyable part of the business to me. But then the moments when I really don't want to be owning my own business are often put to rest by the amazing emails that I get from people and the messages that I get from people. That makes every single difficult moment absolutely worth it.
And so I'm going to tell you guys a story about how I met Lauren. So when I found Lauren on TikTok and I followed her page, and then I brought me to her website, and I didn't know about the psychiatric care unit until I got to the website. And so immediately I saw Lauren had her phone number listed at the bottom of her website. I was literally laying in bed with my husband and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to call this girl. And he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm just going to call this girl and see what happens. And it was like a ring and she answered. Let me tell you, I would never been so scared in my life. Like,
go to voicemail, go to voicemail, go to voicemail.
Yes. Because I was like thinking about my script and I was thinking about like all of these quote unquote professional things I could say, but she answered and it's like all of that vanished. And I was like, oh, hi. Oh my goodness. But she was so sweet and she was so willing to just like answer any questions or anything. And so not saying you should give her spam phone calls, all of these things, but she does appreciate when people reach out to her, like so much.
I do. That is for sure. I mean, it literally means the most to me. I never used to pick up any call that didn't have caller ID. And now I see it and get so excited. And when it's like a auto dealership, I get upset because I'm like, I thought you were a person that was going to call me and tell me something fun, but it's an automated voice message.
Oh my gosh. No, that's awesome. And so going into how you were talking about like the different hats you can wear with like your small business, how do you channel your creativity within those different fields, whether it be like designing your website or TikToks or marketing your business? Where do you get that creativity, and have you found it hard to get new content ideas and all that jazz?
Oh yeah, the creative process is a fun one, and it is also a chaotic one depending on what you're trying to be creative with. For me specifically, I have absolutely no interest, not interest, but absolutely no experience in website design. And I remember looking at the blank page on Wix with all the templates, and I was like, this is not for me. I was like, I know I have no money to hire someone to do this, but this is not for me. And so I am kind of a Pinterest person, but not huge. But unfortunately, when you search website design in Pinterest, it's not exactly helpful. Pinterest is great for everything, but when you really need it. So with website design, I think and for things that I didn't really know a lot about, like even some graphic design, it was a lot of just researching successful companies that did it. I spent a lot of time doing that. Don't steal a big company's ideas, but you can learn a lot from them, the basics of design, just based on doing a little bit of stalking of famous companies and things like that. You can learn a lot about what makes a website functional, what makes a graphic good and visually pleasing. So I think there is so much that can be learned outside of the classroom. You do not need to have a college degree to do this. I think I started the company with very little college knowledge and a lot of just doing my research, spending the time at night when I was exhausted, looking at famous companies and their models, seeing why they were successful, all those types of things. But then for the things that I love, like design, when it comes to the phrases and stuff like that, that creative process for me was very brought on by my history in the music business. I was in the music business for a few years. And
really?
I live in Nashville. Are you kidding me? Had to have a little bit of music in there. So I was originally in the music industry before I moved into this, but a lot of that creative process was for me listening to people. I love hearing people's stories. It's my favorite thing ever. I love when people just like sit down and just like word vomit all over me. I'm like, this is awesome. And people give you so many little amazing truths in what they say if you just take the time to listen, especially to the people who just go on and on. And yes, 80% is what you've heard before, maybe even 95%, but that little percent that if you take the time to listen to, it can absolutely change your life. And so a lot of the phrases that are on the crew necks or that I post on social media are from things that people said to me in passing, things that I overheard that I was like, that is so good. Because when people are raw and just able to talk about who they are in their lives, they will give you the most encouraging and the most helpful pieces of advice.
Oh my gosh. So cute. I'm sorry, Christian's in the room, but I was just like, oh my God. But that is, first of all, that's a lot to admit as a person saying like, I don't take credit for all of this. Like, this is not just me. Like, yeah, I may be the one that like actually goes out, makes it, designs it and everything, but I don't get all of the ideas from myself, and that's okay.
No, I learned that when I was in the music business of you'll have 10 people writing a song together. And you think it's one person. No, it's 10 people in a room, because the truth is that a lot of the greatest songs are from all of these people talking and just listening to things each other had to say. So it is absolutely not all me. There are moments where I'm like that was good. I thought of something good. But a lot of the time it is wonderful people saying amazing things.
That is so sweet, because it takes first of all, it takes a lot to be like, yeah, like this ain't all me. And sometimes I can't swallow that. So I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
Of course. So I know you talked about you being a marketing student. So do you plan on going into this full time after school, or do you plan on going into the marketing industry plus this?
If you would have asked me this question 2 months ago, it would have been very different. Over the past 2 months, the business has absolutely taken off, and it's getting a very loyal audience and customer base. And so at the moment, I am planning to head into this full time after graduation, which I am so excited about. I will be transitioning out of my little apartment that I do not want to be housing an entire business in anymore. I will be looking for some office space because it's getting a little bit overwhelming. But right now, I am on track to pursue this full time after graduation.
Congratulations. That is so exciting, because it's crazy to think, was it TikTok that really brought your brand up?
Oh, yeah. I know people make fun of TikTok, but it is a fantastic outlet for businesses, especially personable or relatable ones, because you can be there authentic and all, and people will want to listen. It is a very good place to start, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Like, there's an audience for everyone on TikTok.
Oh, yeah. You can find your people, whether
Absolutely.
Those people are very small or very big group. You can find them. They're there.
Just keep scrolling and liking videos you like. Trust me.
The algorithm's got your back.
Yes, because I'll look at Trevor's For You page, my husband, and I'll look at mine, and I'll have videos like yours on my For You page, but videos on his For You page is going to be like online gaming, like all of this. And I'm like,
yeah, that sounds about right.
I'm like, what is this? Like, I'll like look at his videos and I'm like, this ain't it. Like, no.
Oh no. I remember my dad downloaded TikTok because when the business started doing well, he was like, oh, I want to see what this is all about. And I was like, Dad, I don't know if that's a good idea. Like, you're not going to understand it. And he was like, no, I just like want to watch your videos. So my dad, being a male, had the male targeted algorithm come up on his For You page with like young women. And he called me. He was like, Lauren, I didn't know that was allowed. He's like, so I saw a dog video because I really quickly realized the algorithm would push what I wanted to see. So I started liking every single dog video I could find and ignoring every video of a young woman. He's like, now my whole algorithm is dogs. It's awesome. I was like, that's awesome.
No, that's perfect, because oh my goodness, that's hilarious.
I was laughing so hard.
Yeah, my parents also downloaded TikTok, and the first thing they saw was like Charlie D'Amelio and all these people, and they were like, what is this?
I mean, there are still so many times, like the video that went really, really viral was like, it was intended as a joke, but if you didn't know that it was a joke, then like it just seemed like a very weird video. And my parents were like, we want to see it. We want to see it. And I'm like, it's not going to make sense to you, but okay. And they were like, I don't get it. And I'm like, I told you that would happen.
Like, I told you wouldn't get it, but now you're telling me you didn't get it. So don't get it. Yeah. Okay. So let's say I want to start my own business tomorrow. What advice would you give me as far as like just starting my own business as a young person?
You have to be passionate about what you're doing, because when you're starting a business, 80% of the time you're doing things that you don't know how to do and don't necessarily want to do. And that's just the truth of it. You're going to work 12-hour days and things are going to go so very wrong. And if you do not absolutely love what you're doing and see the purpose behind it, then you're not going to want to keep going, because regardless of the financial gain or the material gain, when you have not slept in days and are fulfilling orders and stuff, you're not going to care about that at all. You're going to be like, whatever, just make it stop. But having real fulfillment behind what you do makes all of those things worth it. So love what you do, but like work is not necessarily going to be what you love every day. But if you love it, it makes it a lot better.
Absolutely. Yes. 10 out of 10. I couldn't agree more, because if you want to learn and do what you want to do and you really want to do it, you can't just have the 9 to 5. It's like you're doing 9 to 9, you're doing 12 to 12. Like, it really is just, it doesn't stop. Like, as much as I do say, like, I clock out at 5, I don't clock out at 5. Like,
so you're answering your emails for another hour. It keeps going. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I remember that phrase, like, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. I'm like, that's not true at all. That's actually completely incorrect. Yeah. But if you love what you do, then you get to enjoy it a whole lot more.
Absolutely. That is the revised version I will be living with.
Yes.
I'll be constantly working. It just will be more enjoyable and bearable. So
I think people get the wrong idea. They're like, oh my gosh, this feels like work. Like, I shouldn't keep doing it. And I'm like, no, you have to work for the things that you love. Just like a relationship, anything good you have to work for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you could name 3 resources that have saved your absolute butt with starting off your business, what would you say?
First of all, this is like more related to college students. Use your professors. They are there. They have so much knowledge and they actually want to help you. Yes, there are going to be some that don't want to help you, but find the ones that like genuinely care about their students and utilize them. I mean, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing with an income statement or a balance sheet. Are you kidding me? I have absolutely no idea. Did I pay attention in class? Kind of. But at the end of the day, I have no idea what I'm doing with an income statement or a balance sheet. And I remember my mom called me and she was like, Lauren, like, you need to get your accounting in order because like, what if someone audits you? And I was like, oh, like, I'll deal with it. And I stayed after Zoom one day with one of my finance professors and I was like, hi, like, I have this business and this is what's going on. And I like think I might need your help. And he was like, okay, just like send me these numbers and I'll let you know like if you have a problem or not. And of course I had a big problem and I was not keeping track of things the way that I needed to. And he was like, we're going to get this fixed. He's like, we're going to make spreadsheets. We're going to handle this and handle that. And he was so excited about it. He was like, this is like a fun little project. And I shout out to him. I love him to death. But if you find the professors that are willing to help you, it will make your life a million times easier. Because had I had to actually figure that out, it would have been a disaster. Like I could not have done that.
Right.
But if you find people who really do know what they're talking about, and especially because they're free. I mean, they're not free. You're paying tuition, but they are people with a lot of knowledge that kind of have to help you for free. Utilize them. They are amazing assets.
Absolutely.
Not forget about the professors. A second one, this is probably personally for me. I don't know if it would be relatable for everyone else, but my parents have been a huge resource to me. I actually grew up in a double CEO household, which is very unusual. Oh, the power dynamic is amazing. Both of them started in garages and basements. So I really grew up with that American dream household of starting from absolutely nothing and building successful businesses. And that is something that I'm very privileged to have access to, parents that know that much. I mean, they have been so supportive. I mean, they understand all the parts of starting a business. They understand the struggle. They understand the good days and the bad days, but they really knew how to support me in that. And that has meant the most to me. They have been the ones that I've been able to call whenever I have a weird situation and I'm like, I don't know how to handle this. And they too have times where they're like, I don't know how to handle that either. I have absolutely no idea. I've never had to deal with that. But they know the people to call that I can then talk to and get help from. So finding people in your life who either are in the industry you're in or have knowledge of the industry you're in, do contact them. Like, never miss an opportunity to make a connection, because whether they know the information or they know someone who does, they can be an amazing resource and asset to you.
Absolutely. That is.
One more. This is a funny one for me, but it's going to change person to person. But you have to have someone or something in your life to tell you to stop and go outside and do something else. Personally, for me, that's my dog. My dog will make me stop working because he wants to go do something else. And that is actually really important. And it is a resource, whether that be a person or a dog, because you have to stop sometimes. It is so easy to work for 12 hours straight and not get up for air. And that's not healthy. That is not taking care of yourself. And it is not a sustainable business model at all, because you are going to get exhausted. So having those people or dogs that will tell you to stop and take you outside, smell the fresh air, those are important. Because I know when I go on a half an hour walk that I feel so much better. Or when I go to the mall with a friend and just walk around for a minute, that is a reset button. And that is very, very important and healthy.
Absolutely. That is like the perfect list I've ever received on a podcast. If I were to give a list, it pretty much would have been that. Like, post-graduation versus about to graduate. It's, yes, pretty much.
The essentials.
Yes, very much so. And yeah, don't get wrapped up in your work, seriously. And the amount, even though, so I'm originally from Minnesota. So I went to school in Minnesota and I now live in Louisiana. I know I can still call my professors and be like,
that's awesome.
Yo, I don't know how to do this. Do you know somebody who does?
Follow them on LinkedIn or connect with them on LinkedIn, because they will always connect with you back. They want to grow their LinkedIn following too. There's no shame in it. So they will, and then you'll have contact for them for life. And that is awesome.
Yep. And some professors, I don't know if this was just my university, but if they give you their cell phone number, keep it. Like, seriously, do not delete it after graduation, because you never know when you're going to need it. And
no, that is the great thing about life, is that you're going to need the most random people, or wish you knew or still had the number of certain people in the weirdest times of your life. And you're going to regret deleting that number.
Email or whatever it might have been.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, Lauren, you've been amazing. Seriously. Thank you so much. And I really do appreciate you shining light on this subject, and more people should talk about it. And so
I agree.
If people want to follow you on social or visit your website, where would they go?
For socials, it's going to be unfinished.apparel. That's for Instagram, for TikTok. And then the website is unfinished.apparel.store. So you can find us there.
Yay. And I know I did Google Unfinished.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. And I know I did Google Unfinished Apparel and you came up. So
yay. Thank you, Google.
Yeah, exactly. So if you don't remember, just Google her, kind of thing. But thank you so much. And I really do appreciate you coming on, and you've been awesome.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you pushing the conversation.
Of course. Alrighty, well, thank you so much, Lauren, and make sure you guys follow her on social media and tune in next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.